Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
PM Central African Time. Welcome to this edition of Nedbank Business Watch this Wednesday afternoon. Very happy to have you join us. It is going to be an exciting show. Myself, Sifiso Ngumalo, and Lungalele Mokakula will be your co-host. How are you, Lulu?
I'm good. I'm great.
Doing
How's your afternoon?
Doing all right. Can't complain.
I'm good. Very good afternoon to our viewers as well. Thank you for tuning in. This is Business Watch powered by Nedbank Eswatini. Today in studio, we'll be joined by Nedbank's insurance specialist, Mcebo Masugu, and he'll be talking about car insurance, why motorists need car insurance, the benefits, and what it covers against. You'll also get to know if Eswatini have really adopted the culture of paying car insurance and how much does the car insurance really cost. Do stay tuned with us. Mcebo will join us this afternoon.
When we flip the script, we look at what is happening economically. The world is walking an economic tightrope. Global growth is slowing. Trade tensions are simmering. And yet, in the kingdom of Eswatini, the central bank is betting on hope. You'll remember that last Thursday, the Monetary Policy Consultative Committee made a bold move, slashing that discount rate to 6.75%. Cheaper loans, easier credit. The prime lending rate drops to 10.25%. But the big question is it going to work? Today, we break away from just the headlines and focus on what the central bank's continued accommodative stance really means for economic recovery. Eswatini's rate-cutting cycle is a new, but in the context of a shaky global outlook, it may just be the lever to stimulate local growth as well as unlock opportunity. Economist Sandra Sbia joins us to break it all down this afternoon after the business news that we're getting into just now.
Yeah. Stay with us. Let's go for an ad break. When we return, we go straight to our first story.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Welcome back. This is Business Watch, powered by Nedbank Eswatini. Thank you for choosing us this afternoon.
Let's get straight to our story. Over 180 locally made products have been nominated so far for this year's Made in Eswatini Consumer Choice Awards. The announcement was made by Melusi Dlamini, the chairperson of A Peculiar People, the organizers of the initiative. Now, the ceremony, set for 25 July this year, will honor Eswatini's most loved brands, recognizing excellence in consumer preference, product quality, and market influence.
We have received more than 180 products that have been nominated, especially within the food sector. We see food is very popular. We see fashion is very, very popular. We see health and wellness is very popular. And we're looking forward. We've got quite a number of them, under construction and manufacturing, both from small and large enterprises. We are closing the nomination process on the 14th of June. We have got 16 categories, half of which will be voted by the consumer, half of which will be definitely determined by the jury. We are looking for products that consumers can experience as they vote. So automatically, I would say more than 90% of the product that were at the Made in Eswatini Consumer Fair will qualify, but there's more products that we are getting to know of from all corners of the kingdom, down in the south, in the north, in the east, and in the west. So we are looking forward to discovering new products before the voting starts on the 20th of June.
We also asked about the progress of the development of Made in Eswatini Store, an e-commerce platform that will exclusively showcase and sell certified Made in Eswatini products.
As we speak, I would say we are at 70% completion. Where we are currently now, we are collecting the information and product descriptions from the product suppliers to make sure that we put the descriptions of the products that they want, and also get the quality pictures and stuff, and also we get their retail prices. The only products that will be available on the website are Swazi-made products. So if you have a Swazi product yourself and you don't know about Made in Eswatini, you have to come on board, because we want to innovate and make sure that all Swazi products are available and sold in a digital space. That's what we are trying to create, instead of just having the general way of going to a retail shop. Now we are transforming it from general to a digital space, so people can be able to sell their products not only locally, even internationally.
The government actively promotes and supports campaigns which urge citizens to prioritize local products and businesses to boost the economy. The government has also enacted policies and programs to encourage preferential procurement of locally made goods and enhance support for small and medium-sized enterprises like the Citizen Economic Empowerment Act. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Malkens.
Well, and that's it for our business news. Thank you for staying with us. It's 7 minutes after 2 p.m.
Let's be after the break. We are talking the policy statement by the Central Bank of Eswatini, the MPCC, I beg your pardon.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Welcome back. This is our live interview now. The Central Bank of Eswatini has maintained an accommodative monetary policy stance, slashing interest rates from 7% to 6.75%. A move that comes amid global economic uncertainty, including trade tensions and slowing growth in major economies. As a result, the prime lending rate, which influences the cost of borrowing for individuals and businesses, has been reduced to 10.25% from 10.5%. We want to ask what it is that this means for Eswatini: cheaper loans, lower repayments, and greater access to credit for households and businesses. A move intended to stimulate local economic activity, even as the international outlook remains shaky. Now, the central bank says it is committed to monitoring inflation and growth. aiming to maintain stability while supporting economic development in the kingdom. Economist Sandile Sbiya is in studio and is going to explain to us why an accommodative monetary policy stance matters for Eswatini's economic growth as well as its stability. Let's understand the why behind the question first. As I greet you, beg your pardon. Now, please forgive me. I get too excited sometimes.
Yeah.
A 25 basis point cut. There's key domestic and international signals that probably, likely led the central bank to adopt this move now. What is it?
So what you've got to be cognizant of is the central bank. What they primarily chase is inflation, stability, stable prices. But they also do have as a mandate a goal towards supporting economic growth and economic development in the country. So when you're looking at the global landscape, what we're seeing, Mr. Ngumalo, is one with recession fears, that we might likely see subdued economic activity across the globe. If you remember, the revisions that came out in April during that spring, that World Bank spring meeting, and also we saw yesterday the OECD also doing something in terms of downgrading the U.S. growth prospects. And then we also look at general growth prospects. We do know that China is also struggling a bit to get to that 5% growth level. So all of those things signal to decreasing demand overall, and that's not good for the economy, because we do need the economy to actually be driven. The economy is driven by demand, so you do need that demand to actually be very strong and very robust to drive economic growth, so that at least we hit these year's growth targets. And then over and above, you now have this wild card that President Trump keeps playing. As we woke up today, we woke up to a new 50% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports into the U.S., while at the same time countries are expected to come in and present their negotiations, their deals, their everything. So right now you ask yourself, how am I going to negotiate when in essence you're waking up today, you're coming up with something else? So what really are we negotiating? So there's a lot of moving elements, and that in itself is also predicted to be a bit deflationary. It's going to slow economic activity down. And once we start seeing that happen, so we do somehow then bet on monetary policy being in a position to cushion the consumer, so that they spend, so that this demand that is being killed through this fiscal policy from the U.S. is somehow revived through monetary policy. That is why even President Trump himself right now is at loggerheads with Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair, because he wants him to cut those interest rates, because that's what we need right now to get the economy growing.
I suppose my takeaway from your assertion is, if I were to juxtapose a confidence versus a caution sort of outlook to this whole thing, you are saying this is more so a cautious response rather than a confidence response. Because if you think about it, the global outlook is dimming indeed. Lower growth projections across emerging markets as well as advanced ones. There's trade tensions, and yet our central bank is choosing to stimulate. Can we really say this is more so a cautious than a confidence sort of response to this whole thing?
For me, I would say it's two things. One, we came out of COVID with inflation spiraling out of control, and
100%.
Then we went into this normalization drive. That's why they called it. There was just rapid increases in their interest rates, right? Just to control inflation. So right now, what we are hoping to see is a balance back to those pre-COVID levels of interest rates, while inflation is also stable. So that's the first one. But then second, yes, there is that preemptive type of stimulus that goes into the economy, and with all this uncertainty that's happening in the global economic landscape, so all countries are now pushing towards stimulating their own domestic demand, so that at least we counter these impacts of these Trump tariffs, and also to allow businesses to have access to, say, cheaper loans, so that they are able to finance their operations so that they can still be in a position to export even with these tariffs. So you kind of want that to lower the cost of borrowing. So essentially, when you lower the cost of capital, you do lower the cost of production.
Let's chime in more into that, cost of borrowing. A lower lending rate sounds good in principle, just generally every day, but what does that really mean for that average Liswati or that small business owner that's walking into a bank today, right now, as we speak?
So one thing we've got to make a distinction on, Mr. Nxumalo, is the fact that the prime lending rate and the actions of the central bank primarily affect banked customers, banked clients, right? In that, what it means is it makes the loans relatively cheaper, right? It makes it affordable to quite a number of Eswatini. So we would expect that Eswatini are actually going to have a bit of more access to credit, the ones that are banked and the ones that qualified for loans. And we do expect to see a bit of increase in credit extended to the private sector, so that that money comes into the economy and begins to drive economic growth.
Okay, not to cut our interview, but we are receiving breaking news, so news just in. As you were, Eswatini set to host major Taiwanese industrial park, creating 10,000 jobs in a significant development that underscores growing economic ties between Eswatini and Taiwan. Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Manqoba Khumalo, announced today, as a matter of breaking news, that Eswatini will establish an exclusive Taiwanese industrial park that is expected to generate over 10,000 jobs within the next 3 to 5 years. Now, the announcement came during a high-profile business seminar at the Shangri-La Far Eastern Plaza Hotel in Taipei, where Minister Khumalo, accompanied by a delegation of Eswatini officials, met with eager Taiwanese investors. The delegation includes the Ministers of Finance, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, and Minister of Public Works and Transport, and other key government officials. Now, this industrial park represents a new chapter in our bilateral relations with Taiwan. Minister Khumalo stated that we have already identified 158 hectares of land at Phoqweni near the Rail Science and Technology Park for Phase 1, with the plans to expand to 500 hectares as the project develops. Perhaps we can segue into this conversation just briefly.
Yeah.
We are talking investment in the Kingdom of Eswatini, the backdrop of the investment conference that we just had. Of course, they were inviting foreign direct investment. Yeah. We are talking 3 to 5 years, as they say. What is your initial reaction to this sort of agreement with Taiwan?
Just hearing you go through that, I think for me it's beginning, the signs are beginning to, the fruits are beginning to bear, the trees are beginning to bear fruits in terms of this international conference in Japan that we've seen happening, So it somehow brings to mind the fact that Eswatini is going back on that direct foreign investment harnessing drive. Remember, before the 2015 type of period, the country was doing relatively well in terms of attracting direct foreign investment, but right now that's very close to zero. So I think this is a very good initiative, and we do appreciate, and it is going to actually increase production in the country, and we do hope that if it is structured well, we are going to see a bit of a transfer of technology, transfer of skills from from the Republic of China on Taiwan into Eswatini and those businesses.
I want us to picture it in terms of its size. It sounds very seismic. Yeah. They are proposing Phase 1 over 150 hectares, Phase 2 going at over 500 hectares. That's really big, and to me that speaks in my head. I'm already imagining the employment opportunities that are going to come with it, but more so the employment opportunities, just the longevity of it all and the sustainability of it, but also the question around quotas will have to come in there, and I hope that is being discussed. How do you react to the size of it all, and what implications we want to be careful of as we set up?
So what, like you're saying, looking at the size, to start with 158 hectares, and I'm just imagining that's serious construction that's going to happen there. And one can already even begin to think of the type of businesses that we want to house there, the type of services that we want to see at that point, right? So, and then when you expand now to 500, that's still going to be quite huge. And we are looking at, say, 10,000 jobs. jobs. That's
Yes.
quite sizable given the size of the Eswatini economy, which is quite commendable, I must say. So one thing that we need to be careful of, like you've already said, we need to think around the issues of quotas. We need to think about the issues of how do we ensure that we do get the local community to actually be part of that value chain, and not only be part of that value chain, but how do we structure it in a way that it ensures there is an effective transfer of skills so that we also grow our own small, medium enterprises and our local industries. And I do believe that when you look at the investor policy that we have and roadmap, those are the key components that it now looks into to ensure that we do integrate local companies, local entities, and there is that component of SME integration in that investor policy. So I would just say maybe as we go on, let's try to make sure that we implement this along the lines of the investor policy and roadmap to ensure that the benefits also do trickle to eMaswati beyond just employment, so that we also see benefits in terms of businesses that will, those downstream businesses that will emerge as they seek to take advantage of the opportunities that will be brought by that business park and all those initiatives there.
Yeah, I was just trying to, to find the tax concessions that are in place. Okay, I found it. Really interesting incentives that are, presented by CEO of APA during the Eswatini Day. Part of which is, I want to quote, that the investment conference around FDI, there's a corporate tax concession at 10% for a period of 10 years, and then tax exemption on dividends in a lot of sectors. And I suppose this sector is also listed here because there's manufacturing and value addition, and then there's mining, tourism, sustainable development, scientific knowledge. And indeed, we do have this sector here. What do you make of this concession? Is it too good that perhaps we are being too kind, or this is what we need to at least, build right now and perhaps in the long term, essentially really benefit from it?
I think for me, the question is not an issue of the concession itself, right? It's an issue of how you structure the entire package. That is why I'm saying I would love to see the execution of this type of initiatives and partnerships along the lines of the investor roadmap. Because what we want to do, Mr. Ngumalo, is we do appreciate that we are bringing in foreign investors and we want them to help stimulate the economy. But we want eMaswati to be part of the value chain and not just be suppliers of labor, because that's where the concessions should actually help us as a country, where you want to build the skills and the grow local industries through that integration into what the FDI does, so we ensure that there is a transfer of skills. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where after 10 years, for example, after this concessionary period dies out, still you don't have local industries that can do that which was being done there. So that becomes a zero-sum game. You want to give these concessions because you want to benefit something. Right?
Our business journalist has shared this official press release with me. And I do just want to go through the key highlights. Of course, we did highlight through our intro that there's 10,000 jobs within 3 to 5 years, which is great. The strategic location with access to major transportation routes. But here's another one, special economic zone sort of location, which, you like to quote a lot. The special economic zone status offering competitive incentives. How do you react?
No, I think for me, this is something we should have been doing 10 years ago. I mean, we've had policies
Better
around...
late than never.
Yeah, better late than never. We've had concessions around special economic zones, but really nothing was being done to ensure that we get that special economic zone. But what we want to do, I must emphasize this, you want to get the local people and the local economy integrated into that, and you want the local economy to benefit off of that. So that's what we need to be a bit cognizant of when we are structuring these special economic zones and these concessions. We don't want a situation where we've given up so much tax revenue over the period, and when this period dies, people just up and go, and it's like that industry never even existed. We want it to remain, and we want it to be owned by eMaswati, and we want eMaswati to grow through that. That should be the end goal.
Really interesting now, and I'm wondering what it is this industrial park is really going to house in terms of manufacturing and industrial services, because that is a broad term. We hope we can unpack that with the minister very soon, and then we can drill into that conversation further. Sanel Sibia, our economist, reacting to this breaking news from the Japan Expo, where the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, as well as his delegation, have closed a very important and significant deal that is going to essentially, give us a really beautiful economic transformation in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Hopefully, really hopefully. Let's go for a break. We'll be back shortly.
Welcome back. You're still watching Business Watch, powered by Nedbank Eswatini. Thank you for staying with us. Today we're joined by insurance specialists from Nedbank Eswatini, Mcebo Masuku. We are discussing vehicle insurance. A very good afternoon, Mcebo. Welcome back. It's been a while, hey?
Thank you for having me.
All right. We're discussing a rather important topic today, vehicle insurance, car insurance, as some people may know it. How common is it, just before we get into the details, how common is it in Eswatini? Is it picking up? Are people more interested in paying car insurance?
Yes. I think it's been picking up over the few years, especially with the weather events, aboma hailstorm. So some people have seen Guti Oyati bese ngikhanza ngathi ukuthi ngenda njani ngoba phela kulukhuni vele ku replace ukulungisa the whole body. So we've been seeing some increase in terms of our premiums, but nalabo nje lababolekako sebajwayele ukuthi manje uboleka imoto ebhange ngiyafaka insurance yethu. So it's been an uplift kulamalanga.
Okay, so let's say car insurance or vehicle insurance, what are we necessarily speaking about? You know, we have different accidents, incidents, hijacking, hailstorm.
Yes.
Sitting at vehicle insurance.
I think nje ngesilungu bathi car insurance kahle kahle cover unforeseen loss events. So that will be your collisions, your hailstorms, like we mentioned, including car hijacking, but theft, attempted theft. Ma umuntu tawuza manje ku breaker in, so bayafastele umasele matazivalo uyakukhona ukuclaimela lokho. Lengakhavike ngilento bathi bo lack of maintenance. Ma benje na engineer yakho seya stall out of nowhere, aneke bese seyoclaim. It's just a maintenance issue. Lana sisuke cover the physical damage that can happen to a car in an unforeseen circumstance.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So there's this mentality, Mcebo, you know, people don't want to pay car insurance because years go by without, being involved in any accident or hijacking or a hailstorm.
Yes.
Then something bad happens when you stop paying.
Yes.
Like am I still covered under this particular insurance?
Well, principal insurance, it's no premiums, no cover. So you could be paying over the past 5 years, but a policy, car insurance, it goes year to year. So I cover for the year. Monthly, but you are typically covered for the year, and then we renew after. So in the event, a renewal comes through, our premiums are condemned, an incident occurs. Lapo vele kusuke kudele cover, unfortunately, bese usakhona ukusitakala. Ngeke usixwayisa ukuthi abantu banake lama premiums abo, because vele if ungabhadali for this type of service, aneke ukhona ukusizakala.
Okay.
Yes.
So how much does it cost to vele kahle kahle? Sifuna ukuvela ukuthi does it depend on the car that I'm driving, driving experience, yini kahle kahle lenibukako before ningivumela ukuthi ngicela ukubhadala?
Well, ema insurance ayahlukana ukuthi wona ayibuka kanjani premium, but nje typically batawubuka le moto nale value yayo, babuke nale experience yalo muntu lo shayelako. But ke Signet Bank siyabambisana na SRIC si agent yakhe kahle kahle uyasinikeza ama discounts for my clients ethu, so singiye ngithi nje mina vela sikubalele ngoba premium yakho neyifina lo munye eceleni, so kunama discounts nje for my Nedbank clients. Si mabe member yasazi imed uthola discount, mawufaka i-tracker nakhona kune discounts, mawuthenga imoto locally la ka NTT kune discounts. So kuyashiyana ngeke mabe vele ufuna sikhothele, I always request for at least date of birth noma ID number, your license issue date, sibuka le experience yakho on the road, ukuthi how long have you been driving, sibuke nemoto yakho ukuthi yini, the full description, sibuke na le value yayo ukuthi ithini, and then we can get the quote from the insurer. Nalama discounts sibuke ukuthi are they applicable for you. Yes.
Okay. So in the event mhlambe Dikanza I'm involved in an accident ngiyabhekisa today, the following month nakhona sengishayisa inkomo, next month sengishayisa umvu or bangishayisa again, niyabuka nema risks la kanjalo as Nedbank. Nangabe kwenteka kanjalo ninda kanjani yakhona ngikungisida ukuthi vele ngikhona claim 3 occasions?
Yes, uda ukhona claim ngoba phela those type of events neke uthi my accidents ayendeka ibhadi le cover vele, that's when it actually comes in, because now sekungade ukuthi kudawundeka nini, so siyakhona ukuclaimela, not a problem. Insurer yethu ya process ama claims manake vele as ukwendeka lama incidences now bese bakubuka ukuthi how risky are you, ngoba phela bese so affect lama premiums esiwacollectako from everyone else, because lama claims abhadala from the pool of premiums we collect. So mangabe wena vele ufaka le yakho lencane but uphola ukuclaim so tawulimata le pool, so over time
yes
bangabe seseba adjust ke premium yakho by news, but ke kuyashiyana. I think ba is in the discretion yalo insurer. Yes, but ke ukuclaim asta uclaim.
Definitely, but the claiming process in other insurance companies takes too long. Even bakhala ukuthi ngifakile claim yami but mali sola ngitholi. How different is Nedbank to other companies?
I think lokukahle kakhulu ngathi as an agent siyakubambisa ma client yethu nje nami sine team yethu nami ngikhona siyagijimisa sigijimise nawe ukuthi usayinele ama form. Ngiye ngithi ke makwendele accident, take pictures, report it to the police. Mangabe khona lo munye involved, maybe senishayisene or sosayisa umuntu, try to get those details aloyo muntu, because we need that information masifaka le claim yethu. Sithi ke within 14 days sicela ube sesipotile ama documents lona onyalo sinikede sitomikisa ku insurer, but vele le process kuyashiyana because it out depend number one kuthi wena usilethela nini le information lesithingako, 2 nalama garage, le garage letakulungisela ukuthi how fast are they in terms of their turnaround times, availability of parts. Some parts so ekhanza ukuthi kufuneka odwe like South Africa, even emaveni, so that also plays a part, but sinele sikwendako vele siyazama lokugijimisa labo who are involved. But ngiye advise ukuthi mawufaka iclaim yakho uyokhotha mayokhotha kula ma garage akho ubo zama kuba kuva ukuthi how quickly can they do the job for you, because ungekhanza ukuthi une line lelite, especially nje around Hailstorm. Lapho ke vele it was a lot of people who were affected, so vele bokhanza ukuthi kuya delay, but mangabe vele it's just an accident, random accident, try to talk to your local garage lakho, because the good thing about SRC bese uyakubuta ukuthi which one do you prefer, uyabona wena ke ayisemkhulumile nabantu bana ayituthangendela kahle ubani bani uthangendela kahle, then we direct to that way. So I can't say vele in a turnaround time ukuthi iba kanje it depends on a lot of variables.
Okay.
Yes.
So there are scenarios lapho khona uqhawukanza ukuthi it has happened to many people. A few friends of mine bake bangixoxela ukuthi in car parks uthi uyabuya emotweni yakho khanze mhlambe sibuko sesilimele khona umuntu lopake kabo sishayisile noma bakungconzile ungasa reverse. So in those instances nakhona do I get assistance? Do I need to take pictures? Ngiyakhona ni ukutfola lisito even though ngingadi ukuthi ngishayiswe ngubani.
Ngishayiswe ngubani, yes. No, sithi utalitfola. Nakhona nje ngithi uyayibona idamage yakho nakhona uyakhona ukuyobhoda emaphoyiseni ukuthi I think yabuya ngikhanze imoto yami ilimele kanje bayakwendela i-police report. Uthathe ama-pictures esifake i-claim yakho. I think lesikwendako sing-Nedbank sithi mangikwendela insurance nje sikufakela what we call zero excess, which is only available ka SRIC. Zero excess, it's a waiver requirement for an excess. Typically, my car insurance, baye bathi kuba ne what we call it deductible. Mangabe ufake claim yakho, there's a certain amount lekufuneka uyikhiphe before ba release imoto yakho after seyilungisiwe. But ke SRIC une option yokuthi ubhadale just a little bit extra ukuthi ba waive le requirement leyo. So that allows you ukuthi ungacabanga emakhekha akho mawufaka iclaim. So those type of claims nje siyawafaka without any issues.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So most people love traveling and they're always outside the country. Ingabe sengivelela ingoti ke I'm in South Africa or I'm in Mozambique. Lusito ngiyalitfola yini khona?
Definitely. Kune towing company le sitako in terms of kulanza le moto lena. But I think the one big thing that people worry about kuthi na kusengishayisile sengisebusuku South Africa bese ngenda njani bese at that time maybe labanye abathi ngavele some temporary accommodation siyakhona ukuyiclaimela leyo temporary accommodation because it's due to the accident. So there is that benefit under the policy yakho. So uyakhona kusitakala nale moto sidayilanza all the way from wherever it is, Mozambique or South Africa, ibuyela kangwane for repairs.
Okay.
Yes.
So is it only SADC countries ngikhona kungisita if lengoti whatever accident lendegile is around one of the SADC countries?
Yes, we cover mainly the SADC countries all the way because typically we don't drive their cars all the way up the continent. But the way we normally travel to CX cover. Although vele siyacela lokuthi la matracker afakwe over and above le benefited discount iyakusita ukuthi at least imoto yakho siyithole mangabe nabo things happen so kashani.
Okay, so what is needed, documents, what documents are needed for me to apply for car insurance with Nedbank?
Siyaqala ngecode ngithi ngiphe ID, your ID number, your license, the description of le moto yakho, nale value yayo. And then it's for the quotation. If you're happy with the quotation, then you'll complete my proposal forms, send your typical KYC, which would be your proof of income, proof of residence. Sekona go place I cover.
Okay,
yes, and then and then depending on your payment options, motor winter installments or monthly credit deposit. But kahle kakhulu vele manje ayibhadala yonke. Nakithi nje siyajabula ngoba ema-clients ethu siya-offerisha le option ye-loan, ye-insurance loan, which will be payable over the 12 months of the policy. So once you renew your policy, you can come back, see when they're fulfilling your insurance loan.
Okay, so lastly, Nje, before I let you go, how do your clients get a hold of you when they're interested in car insurance?
Nedbank Eswatini khona social media, but alternatively ungasithinta ka helpdesk at nedbank.co.za noma usishayele 3278 1999. Insurance department corner, they'll redirect you.
All right, thanks so much, Mcebo. Well, there you have it, vehicle insurance. But for more information, do contact them at helpdesk at nedbank.co.za Lapa Eswatini, Nedbank Eswatini, or visit any of their branches countrywide. But akona Google see that. Let's go for a break. We'll return shortly. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. The Eswatini Electricity Company recently launched the Power Shift Eswatini campaign, which urges consumers to shift electricity usage away from peak hours 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. for domestic consumers. But besides ensuring a stable grid, what are the benefits of this campaign on tariffs, especially when Eswatini purchases 80% electricity from South Africa and Mozambique? Businesses currently subsidize domestic consumers. So if household consumption increases during peak hours, what impact will this have on businesses, particularly because they are charged according to time of use? Business journalist Nelson Ngamandla puts these questions to EEC Marketing and Corporate Communications Manager Kaya Mavuso, who explains why the Power Shift initiative is critical at this time.
Mr. Mavuso, welcome to Nedbank Business Watch. We saw Eswatini Electricity Company launching the Power Shift Eswatini campaign. My interest is, why is this campaign important, especially now?
During the winter season, we normally notice a spike in terms of electricity consumption, especially from the month of June to the month of August. Over the years, we have had challenges maintaining a stable electricity grid to a point that we had to do what we call load shedding in previous years. However, this year we came up with a much more different approach to address the situation. Because of the increase in the demand, we all know that during the winter season it's quite cold. A number of our customers actually use electrical appliances much more longer than previous months. To avoid the situation where we do not have enough electricity to supply our customers, we are all aware that we import most of our electricity from neighboring countries, and those countries also face constraints during the winter season. So Eswatini Electricity Company then decided, how about if we encourage our customers to actually shift their electricity consumption from peak periods. We identified that the most critical periods where we see an increase in the consumption of electricity is from 5 p.m. in the afternoon up until 8 p.m., as well as 6 in the morning up until 8 in the morning. Those are the peak periods where we are requesting customers not to use electricity as much as possible. Now, if we're able to shift our power or electricity usage during those periods, we'll be able to maintain a stable electricity grid so that we can consistently supply electricity to all our customers. From our projections, we see that the increase in demand probably goes as far as 20 megawatts minimum, also increasing to as much as 45 megawatt hours during that period. Our focus is that if we're able to shift our electricity consumption from that period to the other hours, then we'll be able to maintain a stable grid. This is not a forced measure from EEC, but we are requesting customers to do it voluntarily, because if we join efforts and we do this voluntarily, then we won't get to the position where EEC will start implementing a load management. Now, load management is different from load shedding, because with load shedding, it means we do not have the power from the source. However, with load management, we do have the power from the source. However, we're trying to manage costs by managing the load within the certain periods that we have specified. We know for a fact that the more we import from our neighboring countries, that it means the demand for the country increases, which translates to the tariff in subsequent years when we are going for a tariff application. To avoid that, then we are trying to manage the load.
What impact will consuming so much electricity by domestic users have on the power or the electricity that we buy in other countries? I'm assuming that maybe if we consume so much electricity, it will have an impact on the electricity that we are buying in some other countries, and that will transfer to the cost that we'll end up paying as businesses and domestic users.
Okay, the tariff structure is designed in such a way that whenever we import electricity, we are charged on a maximum demand. As we stand, we are trying to manage the maximum demand within the country. With the amount of electricity that we have on a daily basis, we are trying to manage surviving within those means. If we are unable to survive within those means, the capacity that we have for that particular period, it means we'll have to import more. The more we import, it has an impact or a bearing on the electricity tariff. So that means the next time we go for a tariff application, it will be based on the maximum demand during that period. Our focus now is to maintain the maximum demand or even reduce it from its current stage. Our maximum demand varies between 170 megawatt hours, but depending on the environment and the conditions at play. Our target as the business is to try and reduce that maximum demand by at least saving 20 megawatts. With that, we then will be able to satisfy all our customers without going into load management.
Domestic users, Mr. Mavuso, are usually subsidized by businesses. So what impact does consuming so much electricity during the peak hours have on the businesses around the country?
The domestic tariff remains the same irrespective of when you consume electricity. This is different from business customers because some business customers are charged on a time of use basis. That means the tariff that they buy electricity or are charged on electricity during peak hours is higher than off-peak periods, which is why we're encouraging that even businesses can shift their electricity consumption away from the peak period so that they can benefit from the lower tariffs for that period. Now, overall, when we are doing a tariff application or considering the cost of electricity, where we are getting our electricity in terms of imports, we are also bound by the time of use. So, which unfortunately is not translated to the domestic customer. The domestic customer is actually subsidized, heavily subsidized by businesses, which is why our focus is mainly on those domestic customers to say, if they can also come into play into the party and shift their energy usage, we'll be able to collectively as a nation reduce the increase in terms of the tariff costs. That's the reason why our focus is on the domestic customers. The more we import, it means the more cost we'll incur as a country. And unfortunately, it is upon EEC to then see how best we can manage in terms of those costs within our customers.
Having you on the show has been a pleasure, Mr. Mavuso. You are saying that you are running the Power Shift Eswatini campaign to ensure that when you are buying electricity from other countries, it is not expensive because that ends up transferring to the consumer and the businesses. Siyabonga kakhulu kuba nathi ku Nedbank Business Watch.
This is our market analysis now, 49 minutes after 2. We have Toba, the Treasury Sales Manager from Nedbank Eswatini. We want to understand the latest in terms of foreign exchange, commodities and equities. He's here in studio. Toba, good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Swiso. Good afternoon to our viewers.
Looking at these numbers, slight rand gains across the board. What is happening here? Because obviously they're all down marginally, but are we seeing a short-term technical sort of correction here? Is there broader fundamental support for the ZAR basket right now?
Yeah, so it's mostly just the fundamentals. We've got a number of data in South Africa that came out starting from yesterday, where we had first quarter GDP numbers, which showed that the economy grew, but it's sort of at a stagnation right now. And then we also received PMI, Producer Manager Index, this morning, as well as business confidence, which showed that business confidence lowered in South Africa. So there's quite a lot of technical data coming out. The US as well. We had jobs opening numbers coming out stronger, and on Friday we're expecting non-farm payroll. So it's quite a technical week with a lot of economic data for investors to digest.
Hopefully, as we get our graphic up on the screen with the foreign exchange, I do want to understand index per index here with the USD and the SZR movement hovering at what, 17.85, barely down 0.006%. I want to understand from a treasury perspective, really what levels corporate clients are really watching closely here, as it were, and how they are hedging given this tight range.
All right, so I'll just look at where we're coming from. Maybe in the past week, we are seeing a downward trend of the rate. So which means that it's favoring our importers who are buying. I think this morning we actually saw it reach levels of 17.77 and then bounce back up to the 8.5 that we are seeing now. So corporate clients can take advantage of that and hedge their exposures, their import exposures, which means that they'll be paying less for their imports.
Sterling losing at 0.29%. What is the reflection here? Is it a risk-off sentiment in the UK economy or global foreign exchange? There's repricing rate expectations, of course.
Yes.
I wonder if that is the effect. How does this impact importers sourcing from that area?
Yeah, so likewise, the sterling is also following the trend that we're seeing in the dollar. It's quite a number of things as well, but mostly it's just a global economic sentiment in that there's still a lot of uncertainty with the global economy. We have today being the deadline for U.S. trade partners to negotiate deals with the U.S. So that's sort of jittery in the global market, sort of drives the numbers that we are seeing. Also, we saw the U.S. Today doubling the tariffs on aluminum and steel. So all of that sort of impacts some of the industries, especially mining, and the UK being one of the major mining economies. So it means then that they will be sort of paying, or their customers will be paying more to import those metals into the U.S.
And I suppose we can sort of apply the same for what is happening in the Eurozone. But there's also the inflation that is still sticky in that block.
Yeah. But they've sort of managed to sort of keep it to a minimal, I would say. Right now, the inflation in the Eurozone is around 2.5 or just sub that. So they have managed it. They've managed it quite well.
They've done a good job.
Yeah.
As we move to commodities now, we will have our graphic go up, and our viewers at home will see that gold prices remain elevated. And of course, this is despite a tiny dip today. What is keeping gold so high? And the usual, it is a safe haven, I know. Is it inflation hedging? Is it geopolitical hedging, or a reflection of dollar weakness?
So it's a combination of, I would say, mostly investors hedging their exposures. With the global uncertainty that is currently going on, and today being that key day for U.S. trade partners to sort of negotiate deals with the US, it sort of then creates that uncertainty that then drives investors into gold. We've also seen a number of central banks just piling their gold reserves, increasing their gold reserves in this environment.
Interesting indeed. Something to take advantage of. This Brent crude oil sitting at $68.36 US per barrel, of course, negative 0.31% there. Are we really taking advantage of this number that is quite low by historical standards?
We're coming from some scary numbers in oil, and I know that oil is the price of oil is rather close to many of our hearts, because it affects fuel and all of that. This is this dip that we're seeing here, the 0.31%, is not really that significant, but there's quite a number of things that are weighing on the price of oil. Firstly, we have OPEC Plus planning to increase their output in July by about 441 barrels per day.
Sure.
We also have the global uncertainty, which then creates limited demand because of all of the trade agreements and all of that are currently flying around. But we sort of have seen the price of gold, I think in the last 2 days, in the price of oil, in the last 2 days sort of increase due to wildfires in Canada disrupting production and actually reducing production by about 300,000 barrels per day. So that has sort of hedged a further dip in the price. I would believe if that was not the case, with what I've just counted, the OPEC Plus increase in production as well as the global uncertainty, would probably be seeing a lower price than what we're seeing now.
We move to equities now. S&P 500 is rallying, and as it is rallying, it is up over 0.5%, nearing 6,000. If you look at it, 5,970.37. What does this tell us about what is happening with tech stocks in the US?
Yeah, so they are the major drivers of the performance that we're seeing in the indices. So we have a number of them. The share price going up by over 1% today. The big ones were NVIDIA, your Packard Bell and others. But it's mostly just driven by performance. It's also driven by the demand for AI technology in the economy or in the production lines. More and more companies are sort of looking at how they can implement that into their production cycles. So there's quite a lot of demand, and investors are sort of looking into how they can get into AI, which then pushes the share price as we continue to see.
100%, and of course, the US wanting to stay ahead of Asia. Asia trying to really be at the top there in that particular field. But FTSE and the JSE All Share Index there, both of them close higher. The JSE All Share Index is up 0.67%. Are we seeing confidence return here in South Africa's assets, or is this mostly riding in, of course, mining and commodities?
It's definitely the last one. It's riding on the price of precious metals that we are seeing. South Africa being a major producer of or exporter of a number of hard commodities. A surge in the price of those commodities will push some of the major companies that are in that index up. So it's mainly that. Otherwise, the business confidence, because of the survey, there's a survey that actually came out that showed that business confidence dropped from about 45 to about 40. So we're seeing that the confidence is a bit low. but just it's at the back of the mining sector.
It's a marginal drop, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Toba, thank you for your time. I know my heart and many people's hearts are on that S&P 500 story, and hopefully we can not just have that conversation, but we can fill it in our pockets as well before the week closes at the very least. Toba, Treasury Sales Manager, Nedbank Eswatini. Thank you for staying with us on the show today. This has been Nedbank Business Watch. See you again next week. Bye-bye.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.